Hi, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, show number 510. I'm your host, Lauren Gray. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to Almere in the Netherlands, where we're staying. Has a wonderful garden in the back, and it was just such a pretty day, and the garden is just blooming with flowers, and wow, it's just a nice place to be. So, thought we'd do the show from here today. As always, thank you so much for joining me. For those that are watching live on our TV channel, the Hospitality Channel, thank you so much for joining us. We're in 209 countries for that. If you're watching us simulcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, thank you for that. Twitch as well. Thank you for catching us there as well. Today's topic is a little bit, as always, relevant to what goes on each week with us and client industry engagements and speaking engagements and industry news and so forth. And I think we're pretty well looking at the idea that regardless of whether we have a positive outcome, hope for how economies have changed recently, domestically in the US in particular, there is a ripple effect of impact right now. And most of it's defined by uncertainty of our guests as to what they're planning on doing for their travel plans, which, as we know, is one of the more expendable choices that people make when it comes to finances. To that end, we've talked about the need to modify our marketing strategies, which are really AKA communication to our guests, that go beyond the traditional what's been done for so long, what is persistently done by many, and that is by rote. Checkbox mentality. Do we have an active campaign? Is it rates and dates? Are we exposed well for our brand identity as to our name, our location, and what we represent as a product? Then what is our non-branded component to that marketing strategy? And that sometimes varies into specials and offers or unique events or seasonal demand. And it's very vanilla in lots of ways that go on, traditionally so. Unfortunately, marketing is often a low concern or interest other than the expense of it to C-level or executive level communications. They see it as a commodity of evil. They're more worried about operational expenses, bottom lines, P&L functionalities. Um, and so marketing gets regulated to a must do necessary evil. But if we had preference, we prefer not to. As a matter of fact, if the business could sell itself without having to market it, all the better money to be saved. And we know that that's a false narrative. We know that that is, hey, fake news. Um, it is absolutely relevant in our constant dialogue with our guests that we communicate what we have and what we are. But beyond all that, the personalization, what we do, and that's today's topic. I've thought very much about how I see the difference between a successfully operating hotel or resort, restaurant, um, and those that are struggling, that have issues. They think that they're doing all the things they're supposed to be doing, but it's not producing at the levels that they would want it to. So today's topic is surviving versus thriving, the things that make the difference. And they are very specific things. Now, I'm going to break it up into a couple of pieces as to what we do and then also how we do. But I want to kind of step into what this conversation means for me. This industry and working in this industry creates a curse for everybody that's truly dedicated to this industry, I feel, and that is the art of perception. To this day, I can walk into any lobby of a hotel and within a matter of a minute, 2 minutes, tell you how many light bulbs are out. I can tell you where they are in their deep cleaning, what hasn't been deep cleaned in the lobby, what the deterioration of their furniture and fixtures and equipment may be, and what cycle they are in renovations. I can also identify, given enough time watching the team interact with their guests, who's still strongly engaged in their role with the hotel, and those that are just going through the motions and have lost their bonding with the value of what services they provide to the hotel. And I think anybody that is in this industry for any length of time, I don't think this is a unique feature that I have by any stretch. I think all of us that work in this industry have that same sense in different measurements as to what our history has given us and what we see and perceive and what we find valuable. But we can often tell the health of a hotel or resort simply by observation. And I defy anybody to tell me that usually, no, we have to go look at P&Ls and fact sheets. No, you can tell the health of a business by just witnessing its operation in day to day, and just even a few minutes in a half hour or so. And that was always a strength going into meetings with clients, maybe for the first time, or maybe to continue a conversation. And we're talking about that particular property and asking them how they feel things are going. Because what does happen with working in your own property is you begin to create a very myopic view. You I think it was like they said was smell blind. Um, and that is you just don't see the things the way they're seen by others anymore because you're so familiar with what you see. It's more natural and not out of place if it hasn't been changed. I bring up the case of a product, really, the Febreze product came out somewhat by accident in the sense that they had found a chemical that actually uh, neutralizes odors, and they thought this was going to be groundbreaking, and they launched the product. We may maybe for those that remember when it first came out, that it took away all the odors, just made them all disappear. And I thought this was going to be a game changer. They're going to outsell, and it's going to be a whole new amazing brand that would outsell anything else that was just a fragrance in the air. Turned out, didn't sell well. And the reason being is people didn't think they had an odor problem. So they actually had to add a scent to it. Even though it would kill other odors, they had to add a scent to it because people needed a different smell than the smell they had. And I say that from any time if anybody, we have a little dog and we don't smell that maybe our home smells like we have a dog. For those that don't own a dog, they come in, don't notice it. Um, that kind of scent blindness is what we develop in any of our jobs, of anything that we do. We get a very myopic view of what we see things. I often have talked about the fact that I love bringing on people that had never worked in the hotel industry if they were applying for a job because they saw our operation in the closest narrative to what a guest sees it. When they saw that nobody was behind the front desk, they didn't see from our perspective tainted that it was a shift change or that we were only running one person. They stepped in the back for a minute. Right? They just knew somebody wasn't at the front desk. That seemed odd. That kind of unique ability to look at how we operate is a testament to our sensitivity to how our guests communicate, which goes back to our marketing strategy of how do we make these changes? What makes the difference between just existing as a business and doing well as a business, and business being our hospitality business for restaurant, hotels, spa, golf, whatever the amenity value of it is. It's the small things. Um, Here in Almira, there's this. We're in a very deep residential area, and there's a small little bar that is ironically seems out of place in my world. You're so used to seeing restaurants and bars being aggregated in an area or being in a high traffic area. This is in a low traffic area deep in the middle of a residential area. You know, it's tons of places people are living, and there's this cute little dinky bar that maybe holds 30 people. One of the oldest bars here in Almere, actually. And little things. First, meets and greets, friendliness of everybody that's there, friendliness of the owner who's also the bartender, coming out and seeing that you're different than the normal people he comes into and talking with you. But the little things are when we ordered a beer, and there's a variety of wonderful beers here. Should you ever make it over, please do try the beers. Um, but matching not just the glass, which is a traditional thing to do here. Whatever beer you get is matched in the glass logo for the beer, but also the coasters. Just a little thing. It's just the coasters of the beer match the glass, match the beer. We don't do that back in the States. Now, yes, sure, your brand may have a generic brand coaster, so this is not the applicable point. The point of it is that this subtlety of communicating attention to detail gave you a sense that they're paying attention to more than just that. That inference of paying attention to those things. And you may say, well, there's times we're just too busy. We don't have that time with our guests to be able to be that microed into those things. That's when it even has a higher value. Guests aren't blind to the fact that the server's busy. Guests aren't blind to the fact your front desk isn't busy. But when they get to the front desk and they're treated as if they're the only ones that that person is interested in talking to, that the focus is on their conversation, despite the phone ringing, the people in line, the hubbub of what's going around, that lingers more than any promotion that you've done, any value proposition you've placed on it. It resonates that there's a keen interest in the value of the guest to the business. And that's a small nuance. It's not a definable dollar amount. You can't say, well, we train people to do that. And as with anything, sometimes it doesn't always happen. That is absolutely true. There are just times that no matter my best intent, I didn't read a situation well or was too busy to notice that I could have done something better with a guest. Absolutely true. But those are the exceptions, not the standard. And that's what I mean by noticing the health of business when you're there. Walk into any hotel, whether it's your client, whether it's where you work, walk into a different place and watch and see You can tell the health of the place by how it acts and reacts and communicates with its guests and the condition of the place. How many light bulbs are out, how much deep cleaning wasn't being done, and how fatigued the furniture might be. All those are little points. I've been in hotels that are very old and they have a limited budget and they do their best to keep the maintenance up. And you see the effort, the quality. You can only put lipstick on it for so long, and eventually you have to fix something. And I've been in plenty of tired hotels, but you see that the staff is doing everything they can to maintain the best quality of what they're left to use with. Okay, the paint is there even though you see that it's been painted several times. Repairs are there even though it's been repaired several times. That gives you a sense of caring. That caring transfers over to the guest perception of the hotel. They feel that the place is doing what it can at its best. They forgive things that is a loose thing here or a doesn't quite look polished there kind of mentality. If it's clean, wow, that's amazing. I used to have my engineers always painting. If we got cut in our engineering budget, which always happens with budgets, on FF&E stuff and repairs and so forth, I always made sure we had a very persistent and active painting program because the smell of paint and this painting that's going on, you gave a triple perception to many people. One, your team felt that you did care about the presence of of the business, that you weren't just burning it out, and they're supposed to compensate by being overly friendly with guests, even though the place is falling apart around them. Mhm. That gets alleviated. Two, the staff, the team, engineers feel that in spite of knowing that you had your budget cut and you really would have liked to have done the equipment that they have been telling you you should get, at least you're giving them the things that they can do to do the best they can with what they have, which would be painting and so forth. And the smell of the painting and the people, the guest seeing the painting knows that you're always aware of how the place looks, that it's not disheveled or hey, it's an old hotel, this is what it is, don't sorry about that, and if there's a chip in the paint, well, that goes with what the hotel's condition is like. No, you're doing your best to make it nice. This is a small nuance of things that are perception. We talk about the perception of our economy right now and the uncertainty of it and what people are deciding to do about travel and how much they're going to spend even if they do travel. But the reality of it is that perception goes beyond that. Perception then goes into the people that have made the decision to be with us or are traveling for work, whatever it brings us to them, brings them to our doorsteps. But they see that our value to what we're offering is there. And our team members feel good because if the leadership is trying to ensure that there's this presence to the guests of attentiveness and detail, then they'll forget less their training when stressed and remember it more because it's a part of the culture that they're feeling they're part of, that they're contributing to. This is the nuance of what I mean by the thriving part of it. Your hotel could be doing less business. It could have its budgets cut. It could be going through a downtime for lots of reasons, in spite of the economy changes and so forth, economic changes. But the team doesn't reflect that to the guests. They don't throw it in front of the guests going, hey, what do you expect? They cut half of our top personnel. I'm only working a half shift myself. Uh, you know, this is what it is. They don't do that because they feel like everything's being done that is best to be done to maintain a caliber of what they're doing and a quality. So there's that intrinsic part. But let's get to some actual tangibles of what you can do. Going back to the marketing discussion, where so many competitors of yours, and maybe you yourself in your marketing, do the standard stuff. You either have an internal team that sets things up on your paid campaigns and so forth. You might be a brand that relies solely on what brand allows you to do, which is give them money and they tell you what they spend it on. I go in on that one. But let's say that you have a team and or you have a third party that you rely upon. And a lot of times, and we've talked about this, not in a negative always with the agencies, but it's a truism, is that agencies will do the least cost denominator when it comes to things. And they use the least cost denominator in their infrastructure to do it. So all the creativity and things that sold you on this agency may not be the very people that are doing the work for you, or at least in the way that they said they were going to do it when they've regulated it down to a lesser team member on their side to function through the processes that got sold to you. Those things get sold, as we said, break into categories of brand and non-brand. Heavy emphasis on brand. Maybe they're even being lazy and using the autonomous tools we talked about in last week's show, like PMax, or soon to be Meta's new revival of PMax for their own way. Um, And they're not even doing it themselves. They're relying upon the platforms that they give money to literally create the campaigns that they're spending the money on. Not a good combination on all fronts. You have to look at your guests as the real people they are. Now, we've talked about using data to identify your guest categorizations better, and that is by looking at the actions that we have now data from, like GA4 on your website, where you can see what they're engaged with and see what actions, what actions produce what you want, and then seeing clustering those people into audiences and then helping to identify what it is that can get better in front of them, targeting. Okay. The other is creating personas from that, identifying with your team members what kind of people are patronizing that are coming to your hotel. I knew the wrong word, but I can't find the right one. Um, to your hotel during certain times of year that you want to regenerate business for that time of year. You know, your summer crowd, your late summer crowd, your early summer crowd, your early fall crowd. Who are those people? In what context? Your sales team can get involved with. How does a group ebb and flow for demand uh, to your hotel? What contracts are under for where to see who they are so that we don't unnecessarily, I should say, excuse me, unnecessarily skew our targeting to an audience that's more clustered towards group that we already have just because we see more of them than to realize that we should be going for the people that augment them. Anyways, getting these personas together create a personality that the team can relate to. The the young family that's traveling, or the older family that's traveling, or the people that don't have a family are traveling. And from that, what is it that they um, do to engage with your hotel to make the selection of maybe being with you? What is it? Are you nearby certain amenities within your destination? You buy certain events during the time of year? These are the identifying markers. Out of all of this, think about how do you talk to them. Think about the context of the dialogue that you have with them at your front desk, the questions that they tend to ask, the changes in the demand to your property that exists. You know, parking turns into a concern because of event-driven activities. Um, Hot water because it's a cold weather, and I say that because it's nice and cool over here, but it's hot back in the states. Um, the weather shifts as to what demands come on. Is just being able to understand what it is and how it is that you want to communicate, what messaging, what content will you give over to them, so that they want to dialogue with you. They want to work with you because you seem sensitive to what they're interested in. It's the old school marketing concept. What are we communicating to our guests? And that comes from channels of opportunity. You look at Google and you look at Google paid ads. We as users have changed it already. We go into Google, we know we're going to be exposed to all these ads. We go into YouTube, and even though we pay not to get ads, we just get fewer ads. Some of them we can skip through, others we just have to watch through. Um, Depends on what the advertiser is willing to spend to make that mandate happen for a viewer. And the better you target those ads, OTT advertisement and so forth, and Google YouTube, of course, the better that you can make sure that they don't want to just skip past your ad, that you're saying and communicating something that they are actually timely interested in. Some other channels work well. I'm working now under the what's old is new again. It's funny to say, but I've gotten great interest in billboards, digital billboards to be exact, because static billboards do have a very high costume and a certain permanency or durability of the contract that you have to commit to validate the expense, because you're actually finally producing a physical vinyl copy that goes up onto a billboard that stays for a long period of time. That there's a little bit more need to be specifically accurate about where this billboard gets placed. It's an old school marketing, and you kind of show each other, like, are you kidding? Strangely enough, there's no billboards over here, so it's kind of a odd contrast to talk about something marketing avenue wise that isn't available here. But back in the States, there's billboards. And but there's digital billboards now. A lot of billboard cover advertising agencies that have billboard leases and so forth have digitized them, which allows them to create a spectrum of ads on them, and they can sell it parsoned out based on frequency and duration of the ad. And ironically, they're very affordable for what you're needing to do and when you need to do it. If you're getting a strong drive market and you know the roads that come to you, and you know from the drive market the sources that use those roads, you know the timelines of when the ads should run. Why do you say that? Well, if they're coming into your market, they already have a destination in mind, they're coming to your market. We all know that we've trained our guests to not commit until the last minute because somebody's going to crack on a rate, and there might be a better rate of opportunity. So if they did their pantheon of choices, They have several hotels they may have already booked with or have in contention of staying with. They solidified one, maybe two, but not until the last moment will they finalize the decision. And because who knows? Let's drive through town and see. We saw this one hotel. Let's see what the other hotel looks like. Maybe some people do that. Maybe others are just like, you know what? Until I get close enough, I'm not going to make a choice. And all of a sudden, maybe a billboard helps me make that choice. Another old school is new is audio ads. Now, some still listen to frequency radios, FM and AM and so forth, digital radio as well. And then there's also the satellite radios and Sirius and so forth. And we have our own radio station on all of them, actually. I wouldn't say all of them because frequency wise, we're carried by some frequency radio stations in a show program, but not actually all the time on a frequency that we have a local area. But we're on digital radio in 39 countries globally. And radio is turning into a very viable, again, one is because as people get all these subscriptions to so many different things, they get tired of having to pay all these subscriptions. They go back to what can be free. Now, Spotify and iHeart, you have to put up with ads, which is giving you the venue of being able to target. These targeting capabilities are absolutely impressive. I on several long road trips, I've gone and listened to digital radio, uh, Spotify's and iHeartRadio and Sirius and so forth. And the ads that I was getting were literally in the area I was traveling through at the time. So knowing this and knowing the affordability is truly impressive. The exposure so forth. The thing that holds people back from a lot of these is the ROI calculation. It's hard to say that sign, that digital billboard that we ran, or that audio ad that happened to run truly made the conversion. Now, you can go over and create call to actions on either one of those, neither of which is persistent. Like if you put a QR code on a billboard, no. By the time the person reads it well enough to understand the message you've got, to think that they're going to grab a phone and scan it, dangerous to drive, let alone have to do that. So no. But maybe it's a an offer name, a short, make your booking and say Bob, and that means that you saw it on the billboard and you want the rate that that discount provides. On the radio, same kind of thing. OTT on your TVs, those more advanced platforms have the ability to actually click the prompt on the ad to go to a site. Others will just give you a QR code on it. All very viable. Um, but the real important message is to get off of the it must have a certain ROI number, which we've talked many times over as being the kiss of death for many interpretive ways of doing marketing communication. Is if you always put it through the ROI model first, you kill a large portion of your options simply because it can't fit that answer. Um, but if you can go over and look at traditional ways, other traditional ways, there's lots that the guests need to understand that as much as they may have researched you, maybe they thoroughly researched you to every available part of content that you have available for them. There's still the unknowns that happen once you're at the property. There's nothing to replace first person experience. And I say that from brochure racks from back in the day. There's always brochures and brochure racks that have no online presence whatsoever, but they're in the brochure rack of a hotel, which has, Bob's charter service or something like that. I'm Bob today. Anyways, the idea is that maybe offering on the TV or in printed out QR codes that sit at the front desk and plexi stands, or in your centerpiece of your lobby, or at the entrance of your restaurant, or whatever, that says, "Hey, forget to forget to schedule a massage at our spa. Scan here and get put on the wait list. If there's available time, then we'll go down the list and offer it to you if you would like it. That kind of stuff. Um, 5 best restaurants to eat for dinner if you're thinking about going out tonight. Korean, da 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 da. What's the best? And go there and we have a blurb of local information or a link to something that is maybe locally provided already on a CVB, TDC, or Chamber website that is very specific. Or we just have a very good relationship with certain restaurants that are in the area that we know do well and that are in proximity to the hotel. And as much as we want internal capture for our own outlets, you have them. There also is the need for diversification, not to miss the biggest ball of twine outside your doors. And to maybe say, hey, we have a great Korean restaurant right around the corner. If you love spare ribs, it's the place. And that they give them a QR code to go that they can go and maybe get a discount for being at the hotel, maybe negotiate something with the restaurant. These small things provide the value equation in communication with your guests that make it unique, that give you a value relationship with them in such a way that their loyalty begins to churn. And that loyalty, now more than ever, is about referral, lifetime value. Will they come back? Will they stay longer? Will they come more often? Will they tell their friends about you? Will they share their experiences more readily? I mean, that's the one thing about social media is that people are very quick to respond and share, positive and negative, anything. And so with that, do you get more eyes on what you're doing that you didn't necessarily pay for with an ad campaign, but you paid for with investing into these kind of resources that makes it present for the guest to see and use? The things like billboards, audio ads, DOE, which is digital out of home advertising, where maybe you want more local business to come stay at the hotel. You're, say, a beach resort, and the inland community wants to come out for the weekends or something like this. Show up in their doctor office display screens, bars in the area that provide just filler content on the TVs. Put your ads up there about coming out to the resort. The restaurant doesn't mind it because they're not competing directly with you. So you can promote the fact that you got something going on this week and come down for the XYZ Fest or get away and just hop on the beach or whatever, and have it in a bar that's X number of miles away internally that, somebody says, that's not a bad idea. Let's go hit that place up for the weekend. If they got that kind of deal, let's give them a shot. QR coded, or, just remind them that they'll go look it up. They know how to look it up. Look on their map, look on their phone, whatever. Anyways, these are all things that define the difference between surviving and thriving. Surviving, standard ads. Here we are, what we are. Here's my rate. Here's my dates. Presence, awareness, brand, non-brand. Non-brand is very specific to only promotional efforts. There's no depth. There's no connectivity. Your staff doesn't even know most of what you're offering. You talk to a host at the restaurant about the weekend deal that they saw online, and they just give you the blank goosey eyes of, I have no idea what you're referring to. I work here at the restaurant. That's the hotel. That creates, like, gee, that's great. You're under the same roof, and I see you as the same business, but you're acting as if you're two different places. Or your front desk, even worse, not even knowing the variations of what you're offering. That sometimes comes from a paralysis of choice. Um, Revenue managers think that diversity, they don't, they influence what people purchase, but they don't help people decide what to purchase except for rates. And they've put these package variations. Oh, you can add 2 grapefruits to your room for breakfast compared to continental breakfast for your room, or you can do full American, but it's downstairs, and the rates change, and you don't want to know which one you want, and you got 12 different choices of what you want and you just process. I don't know which one I want. I don't know which, because of fear of missing out. If I pick this one, is this really the best one? What's the best value? Then you're gonna get the best value, but it's not what you really want. And you go through this cycle of choices, and you sit and you make no choice, and that's worse. So sometimes clarity of your team, knowing what's being offered, because you reduce it down to very concise things. We have a great time here on the weekends. We have this great weekend package. If you stay 2 nights, the third night's free, or you get to have extended stay at the hotel after you check out to enjoy the beach, or whatever it is that you're doing. The whole team needs to be informed. You do this through your daily meetings. I used to call them NETMAs. I think everybody's familiar with me talking about these stories. Nobody ever tells me anything. Got it from my early hotel days from a great GM manager that did it, where everybody departmentally comes up. The representative from every department for your hotel comes into the meeting on time in the morning, and the day is in review. What's going on? How many arrivals? How many departures? What engineering? Every department has to report what they're doing. Maybe housekeeping is cleaning the dryers today. Maybe housekeeping is redoing the carts today. Whatever it is, each department owns up, so that the whole team that day knows what's going on. And because of that, there's not much that gets past them because everybody is in sync. This is the things that make a hotel thrive compared to just surviving. So I think we've bounced around a couple of things: marketing ideas, operational ideas, cultural ideas, to give you some sense of the difference that you're going to have to step into. People right now are worried about budget cuts, staff cuts by that means as well. Things that get removed from budgets as to memberships to industry organizations, training to continue investment into your team. Um, Travel, obviously, for businesses and things like this, and eventually cutting back on some of the P&L items that you maybe capital improvements or FF&E improvements or what have you, get rescheduled or paused or things like this. So there's a lot of concerns. That's the reality of the economic changes that are impacting our businesses right now. But we have these things to consider too: how better to spend our money, how better to treat our team, how better to improve our communication with our guests. So there we are. Again, beautiful day. I hope that you enjoy the rest of yours. We will recast this, ironically, 11:30 Wednesday mornings, London time for EU, for those that would be missing it at our normal 11:30 a.m. Friday Eastern time. And then 11:30 a.m. Sydney, Australian time for our APAC friends, where we recast it there as well, even though we do get plenty of you all watching us live from around the world in a variety of time zones. And thank you always for that. For catching us on our TV channel, thank you so much for that. If you want, are a hospitality marketer, want to join a peer level organization where we discuss these things on a regular basis as hospitality marketers, and we provide mutual resources to each other and insights, and just somebody that can answer questions sometimes because they're in the same mix as you. Go to hospitalitymarketing.club, put your email in, and we'll go from there. For you catching us on our simulcast and our radio station, hospitalityradio.com, please do. If you want to catch any of our recasts by category, by date of broadcast, guest host, whoever, you can go to hospitalitychannel.tv. And if you want to get our app, which goes to our TV station, go to Hospitality Channel on your Apple iOS or Google Play. You'll see the app, download it, and the show is always on the free side of the pay gateway for that. There's other great content past the pay gateway, and you can catch us on that as well. So until next week, my name is Lauren Gray. I thank you for the privilege of your time and look forward to talking to you again real soon.